Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are across the country. Welcome to Generation Impact, Understanding Youth Philanthropy. We are so excited to have you all join us today. We have an esteemed panel, and we are looking forward to sharing with you ways that you can engage youth and philanthropy. And so, if you don't mind, share with us some of the reasons that you wanted to come to today's session. You can do that by just feeling free to chat that. We also would like for you to complete this poll. And the poll question is, at what age did you learn you were a philanthropist? So as we have people continuing to join, we would love for you just to complete this poll. We'll launch the poll shortly. Oh, wow. So we see there's a variety of ages coming through. So now I would like to turn it over to our esteemed panelists and allow them to each share information with you about themselves. And so I am going to turn it over to Lauren to kick us off, and then I'll let Lauren select the next person, and then they'll share. But Lauren, when you share, please remember to tell us, when did you first learn that you were a philanthropist, at what age?
Great, thanks, Marsha. I'm Lauren Czajka. I'm the executive director of YouthRoots. We are a Denver-based youth philanthropy nonprofit that works primarily with high school students. I probably learned that I was a philanthropist when I was about 28 and started working with YouthRoots. The mission of YouthRoots is to unleash the power of youth to change the world. It's a lofty goal. We really see philanthropy not as the end all be all, but really as a phenomenal experiential classroom to teach young people the skills to bring whatever their big ideas are to life. And I will pass it on to, let's do Wayne.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Lauren. Hi, everybody. My name is Wayne Green. I'm the executive director of Honeycomb. We are an international organization based in New York, and I am actually calling today from Australia. So it's exciting to be part of this global community where we're all passionate about the opportunities that we have to engage young people in philanthropy. To answer your question, Marsha, and to our poll, I embarrassingly want to say that I really kind of learned about it only really in the last few years, and I'm early 40s, and I'd been doing philanthropy and giving charity for a number of years as a young adult, but really only understood what it actually means to do strategic grant making, really stepping into this role as the executive director of Honeycomb, similar to Lauren, learning about her experiences in her role. So Honeycomb is, as I said, an international organization. We are a Jewish youth philanthropy program where we support the development of curriculum, tools, and training for educators, families, parents, foundations, to really think strategically about how do we support young people to learn about philanthropy guided by their Jewish values, and how does philanthropy enable us to support our identity and how we want to make changes in the world today. And I'm going to pass it over to Joy.
Thank you, Wayne. Hi, I'm Joy Webb, and I am, since he said he was from Australia, I don't have anything to top that, but I'm coming from Atlanta, so it's an A, so I'm excited about that. I am representing Community Investment Network, and we're a national organization of African American and donors of color throughout the United States, and we inspire giving by design. We do that by our time, talent, and treasure, and one of the key initiatives that we have is We Are Philanthropists Project, where we are engaging the next generation of philanthropists in college. So we are really excited about that initiative and that programming that we have. So that is why I'm here to talk about youth philanthropy today. And I would say I discovered that I was a philanthropist about the age of 20. A lot of the students that we talk to are around that age too. So it's really exciting. I'm going to pass it to Shanna.
Thanks, Joy. Hi, everyone. My name is Shanna O'Berry, and I'm the Executive Director for Learning by Giving. I would say didn't even feel comfortable claiming the title of philanthropist. It still feels awkward at times, just like many of our youth. I always felt like I was a giver and cared for my community, but I didn't really claim the title of philanthropist until I was in my 30s. So Learning by Giving, we partner with colleges and universities to offer accredited courses in experiential philanthropy. So in other words, students sign up for a Learning by Giving class, and then their experience in the classroom throughout the semester is akin to a giving circle. And at the end of the semester, Learning by Giving writes a grant check to the nonprofit organizations that the students selected. So we're in 35 schools across the country, and we're in all disciplines, from English to economics, from public policy to performing arts. So we're like a giving circle, in that we have a group of about 20 students that are doing this really difficult collective collaborative decision making, but we're not like a giving circle in that there's course objectives that underline every class, so there's a lot of like educational components, and then our membership sort of turns over every semester, so we don't have that sustained membership that a giving circle has. So we're a little bit similar and a little bit different, and I will send it over to Marsha.
All right. Thank you, Shanna. I appreciate that. So just so that everyone knows, we are going to have a great discussion today. First, we have just a very general opening question for all of our panelists, and then we will continue with the panel discussion. We will take questions and answers towards the end. So feel free just to send those in the chat, because we do want to have an opportunity to engage with you and to answer your questions. So with that, I would love for Joy to kick off and answer this question for us very briefly. What makes your work unique in the youth philanthropy space?
I think our work is unique because we are literally meeting the students where they are on their college campuses or in their communities. And then we're listening. We're listening to what the change that they want to see in their communities are. So that makes our work unique, because we partner with them to make those changes happen, whether that's from speaking into it, giving them tools, or giving them opportunities to showcase their work to others in the community. Thank you.
Wayne, what do you believe makes Honeycomb's work very unique?
So as I mentioned earlier, our work is focused on Jewish youth in various parts of North America and Israel and Canada, also here in Australia. And it really is about how do we work with teenagers to think about the world by making change guided by Jewish values. And it's very much about how does Judaism explain and understand various issues that teens grapple with? How do we understand domestic violence? How do we understand the environment and a range of other social justice issues? And how do we reflect that in giving through our Jewish values?
Thank you, Wayne. Lauren, what makes your work so unique as it relates to youth philanthropy?
Yeah, I think there are two different pieces that really makes YouthRoots work unique. Our year-long program really is very robust, and there are two areas of focus that we really have. One of them is leadership. As I mentioned, we use philanthropy as the experiential classroom to really empower young people to bring their big ideas to life on community change. So leadership concepts really are embedded into every session of the curriculum. And then the other one is fundraising. The students actually fundraise every penny that they end up granting out. We teach them how to do it in the curriculum. We help with the project management, but participants in YouthRoots have raised on their own over $315,000 since we were founded. We're really proud of that.
That's amazing, amazing. And Shanna, I believe you shared a lot earlier when you provided just an overview of your organization, and we just love to hear a little bit more about what do you really think makes learning by giving so unique?
Yeah, I think if you've ever been in a college classroom, you know the different perspectives that all your classmates bring. And so our faculty really focus on making sure everyone's voice is heard, understanding that everyone's voice is important, everyone's perspective is brought into the mix. So we don't have like a one size fits all where everyone in the classroom is coming in with similar experiences. Every classroom is so different, so unique. And I think students really learn to listen to different opinions and to really try to think about why students have those opinions and what experiences brought them to this point. And so you get very interesting discussions, students learning how to work with one another, how to work with people who disagree with them, which is really important to us. So a lot of hard conversations happen in the classroom, but it's a great space to go outside of your comfort zone.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for that. I love the panel because you all represent, I think, the richness of what it means to work with the youth. We all know that what a teenager needs is different than what a college student needs, but it appears from what we've already learned so far today that you all really are meeting the students where they are, to really help create students that are well-intentioned, and to help grow the sector beyond where we are today. We all know that it takes a village to really raise children, to raise families. And so we know part of having a village means that partnerships are an essential component of that. And Lauren, I'd love for you just to share briefly, how do you partner with communities?
Sure. Thanks. In our local region of Denver, we run anywhere between 7 to 10 giving circles annually. We have volunteers in a ton of different areas. We have panelists come in, we have speakers, we have mentors, and we help arrange these one-on-one meetings for students to share their findings about what are the most pressing needs in the region with adults. And what I really love about that is that it helps break down those barriers, and then also helps kind of break down the misconceptions that tend to be around young people today. And then outside of the Denver region, we partner with organizations to support them in launching their own youth philanthropy programs. We provide the curriculum, the project management, and the back office support, but they're like the local face of the program. So we partner not only with community here locally, but also with organizations elsewhere that want to launch their own youth philanthropy programs.
Great, thank you. Joy, how do you leverage partnerships with communities, especially, I believe it's kind of, as Laura mentioned, she's shared about a regional approach as it relates to Denver, but also how she's spreading that message outside of Denver, but with CIN having a national reach. How do you partner with communities?
So we partner with communities by, we partner with the local universities that we work with, making sure that they are engaged and informed as to how things work, whether that's from a foundational standpoint or a particular class degree program setting. We also partner with, we use It Takes a Village, as you mentioned. We use our giving circles as they are models and keys of how things have happened in the past. They are great resources for the students, and also often can serve as mentors and advocates for the work that they're doing. So we use that village of giving circles, whether that's a local giving circle, but because we're national, there might be some liked things, like we might have an all boys giving circle that might associate with one of our all men's giving circles, so they can actually learn and talk and mentor, speak about the things that their challenges that they have. And what we found is when we partnered with some of our grantees, they've also been very interested in giving back, maybe even wanting to start a giving circle or starting some collective giving model. So that is our partner too. It is really a 360 approach. Our community is everything that is around us, and we make sure that we take advantage of that by involving and engaging that community.
Thank you, Joy, and thank you, Lauren. So we all understand that when we're talking about giving circles, I think that there is what makes them so unique and beautiful are that they really are rooted and based in values. And so how are we transcending, sharing those values and those core principles with young people? Shanna, can you share how learning by giving, works with young people and what those core principles and values are that you try to impart to them?
Sure. We're not your traditional classroom. I think if students come in and expect us to sit there and take notes, that won't be a successful semester. So they understand that, or quickly they understand that they're in the driver's seat. And I think once that hits them, that they are holding these resources, that they are making the decision, they take that very seriously. So I would say a core principle is ensuring that students are in the driver's seat, while our faculty are facilitators. So they're acting as like the guardrails to make sure that students are staying true to the process that they set up, so that they're, whatever they put in an RFP or whatever it is, whatever is outward facing and going to the community, that students kind of hold that obligation that they set for themselves. So, our core principle is turning it over to students and seeing where they drive the grant making process. 10 years ago, people were like, why would you give youth money? And now I think it's like a no-brainer. You just do that. So yeah, our core principle is just trusting the students. And I think they're sometimes asked like, where does the foundation want us to give? And they're always really surprised that I'm like, I trust wherever you give, and our process, like what we care about is your process and what you learn through the grant making process about your community, about yourself, about philanthropy.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much. Wayne, I'd love to hear from you. What are those core principles that you are imparting to your young people? And then how has your work evolved over the years?
Mhm. Thanks, Marsha. So it's interesting. Shanna mentioned a couple of fantastic points. One, which is similar to one of the core principles about what we do, is that the way that we work with young people. So in our programs, we work with high school students, and often people think, well, it's pretty young. Is that really the right time? And we absolutely believe that the ability to engage in philanthropy, to do giving circles, can start as young as possible. And so the work that we do is with teenagers. And one of the core principles that we have is that it has to be a real experience. The teens have to have real money that they either fundraise or they have in a granting pool, and they actually are able to grant it out. It cannot be used with monopoly money. It needs to be a real experience so that they actually are understanding the true essence of what it means to have that feeling of when you grant out money, what does it feel to be able to do that, and how do you do it in a way that you are passionate and care about. The other principle too about the way that we work is that you talked about values, and values are so core to the work that we do with young people. But what we've done more recently with our work at Honeycomb is that the way that we are working with young people today is about understanding what is their passions, what are the interests that they hold, what are they bringing to their experience that they then collectively can decide to address and learn about and fund. So each teen is very involved in looking at social media and seeing things on Facebook and hearing things on the news, and it's about how do they collectively bring those areas of passion together, and how do they, through our programs, by consensus, decide on one or two particular issue areas, and then from that, then delve into what are the values, what are the core values of philanthropy. We have identified through Honeycomb 7 core values, which are preservation, responsibility, justice, loving kindness, human dignity, service, and hope. They're Jewish values, but they're universal values. And so it is very much about the teens learning about those values, learning about mitzvot, which are the Jewish principles behind giving, and really using that to shape how they engage in philanthropy, learning about nonprofits, doing RFPs, and then allocating funding out. And to your second question about, what is sort of evolved about our work, similar to what I said right at the beginning, we are really focused on not just exploring youth philanthropy starting at teenage years and above. Jewish kids have a bar bat mitzvah at the age of 12, 13, and it is a time when they are receiving money. And it's about how do we educate them at that point of time to think strategically about giving when they have access to those funds. And similarly, for young families who've got young kids, it's an opportunity for those young families to start to talk to young kids about, saving some money, but also being strategic about having some money that they can allocate out. And so that really has been a key process for us about how we supporting educators and families to think about engaging kids at all ages to start thinking about philanthropy, because this is a journey that doesn't start and stop at one point, but this is a lifelong commitment that we have to giving.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much. And I love the fact that you mentioned that lifelong commitment to learning and to growing. And we understand that within the past year, I think we've all had an opportunity just to reflect on the importance of social justice issues and how we are allowing DEI to show up within the work that we're doing. And so, Lauren, I'd love for you to share how you have been able to advance DEI within your organization.
Yeah, well, philanthropy itself, or the traditional understanding of philanthropy anyways, is itself steeped in a history of injustice and racism. And I think our program really tackles this history head on. The program itself is part of communities themselves deciding how funding should be used to best impact their own community. Youth tackling youth issues, because who is better equipped to tackle youth issues than young people themselves who are living them day to day. Our program also really creates space for discussion about privilege and power and race, and we ensure that our facilitators are equipped with the right skills to handle those conversations with a diverse group of young people. And then I just briefly wanted to touch on this very exciting new program that we're working on. We'll be launching a philanthropy internship program in partnership with 12 Colorado foundations. And the program is really designed for young people from underserved and underrepresented communities to, one, get experience in the sector. I mean, it's a pipeline program to really help diversify the sector. But two, more importantly, it's an opportunity for young people to bring youth insight and community voice to foundation operations to help make philanthropy more accessible and equitable. So we'll be launching that in August.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you so very much for sharing, Lauren. I think it's so important as we talk about like creating this pipeline of talent and diversity, as well as just to ensure that the sector is strong. How do we, Shanna, go about making sure that we're, as we're working with young people, that we're incorporating social justice issues into their grant making, into those practices that we're trying to teach?
Yeah, it was interesting because this year, as I look back and look through what our students' funding priorities were, the overwhelming majority of our classes had some aspect of social justice in their grant making. Like that was a priority, whether it spanned working with youth or the environment. Everything was sort of steeped in social justice. It's this lens that students have put on that they can't take off. Sometimes our grant making, our funding priorities that students determine might follow events that are happening globally or nationally. But I think students are seeing things in a whole new way, that it's not a fad or a trend. So similar to Lauren, we're ensuring that our faculty have the resources to discuss what's coming up in class. So like our students will inherently bring up implicit biases when they're going through the decision-making process. Like youth are ready to do this and they don't need adults saying like, let's look at implicit biases. Like students will bring this up. Youth are not, part of the issues I think that we've sort of come across in our organization is having students come to the classroom with a view of philanthropy, like philanthropy is broken. It's steeped in historical racism and injustice, and And now they're participating in this process where they have to see like, yes, it has been broken, but it still is powerful. And like, what can we do to move it forward in the way that is collaborative and collective? So it's been really interesting to see what our students have done this year and have them bring it up to the top. And so, you know, again, I don't think this is some sort of fad. And so we're going to keep pushing and making sure that students are examining power and privilege, what it means to hold resources. A lot of our students come from the community in which they are giving back. However, as a college student, you're often going to another community that is not your own. And so we're always making sure that students examine what does that mean when you're entering a community that isn't yours. And so we just try to help our students see these different factors.
Shanna, it sounds like you all have a very, very intentional and thoughtful approach to the work that you're doing. And I know that we all recognize the importance of having thoughtfulness as it relates to working with young people. And so I would love to ask Joy this question, you know, what are some of the ways that some of the young people involved in your college initiative have continued to make a positive impact?
Well, one of the really cool things about our initiative and Community Investment Network as a whole is using the model of time, talent, and treasure, which leads to a testimony. And we know that philanthropy is the love of humankind. And so we teach that to our students, and they have that foundational piece as they continue to go matriculate through college and their future. And what we've learned is that, you know, when they get it like that, they understand that it is everywhere and that they can give back in any time, whether that is helping a local community center, or that is, you know, being a voice, being active, being an advocate. We have seen how circles have grown from, you know, being charity-based to wanting to look a little bit more deeper and look at policy-driven things and social justice changes that need to be done. And that's through growth of learning and sharing and also experiences. And so we are very proud to support our circles and our college students as they continue to matriculate through this process of the Giving Circle journey, as many of us have done before, oftentimes at a later age. So it's amazing to see them do it at such a young age. It's amazing to see them lift their voice and be unapologetic about the changes that they want to see, and then to put action behind it by using the strategic and intentional approaches that they come up with themselves. And so that's what we have seen from our students as they go through this process and as they continue to do things later, whether that is be very intentional about their giving when they leave college and, you know, have that money set aside, that time and that talent and the treasure set aside, and that's part of their makeup of what they do in the future.
Thank you, Joy. So I want to remind everyone that is with us, if you have any questions, now is the time for us to take those questions. But while we're taking questions, you know, we're going to ask Wayne to share just a little guidance on, just give some advice on if there is an organization or community that was looking to start a youth philanthropy program, what advice would you give to them?
Sure. You know, I think the advice that I would say about starting a youth philanthropy program is make sure that the host organization has a commitment to supporting those teens. Work with incredible organizations. I'm working with and on a panel with amazing people here today. You know, reach out to the experts in the field. Find the resources that will make those programs effective. You know, the best thing that we can do for our youth is to provide them with high-class quality programming. It's important that we provide them with experiences and opportunities for philanthropy to be serious, but also to have that fun element. Teens are there because they want to socialize, they want to be connected to other people in their community. And it's really important that you have those curriculums, those quality products to be able to offer to the students that you're going to be working with. The other thing too is that I think it's really important that when you're setting it up, that there is buy-in from the parents, particularly with young people that we work with. A lot of the recruitment often comes from the host organization actually putting out newsletters initially to the parents, just to showcase that this is something that the teens or young people can actually get involved in. Often, at college, it might be listed there, and so the college students may actually see it. But for the younger kids that are at school, it is very much about how do we tap into them. And we've seen a lot of the driver in the initial stages of the programs being developed have been working with the host institution and the families that are connected there. And then once the program is up and running, word of mouth is an incredible way for the program to expand. And those kids tell other kids, and they bring their siblings and their cousins, and that's how it really should unfold. And so, I think those principles of really, having robust programming, getting the right curriculum, and also having the right facilitator. Joy said just before, which was brilliantly said. She said, that it is about the teens having the power, being unapologetic and driving the process. And the ability to do that effectively is to have a good facilitator, to have someone who's skilled in the institution that helps to drive that process, so the teens are empowered to make effective and important decisions.
Right. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing your wisdom, Wayne. So we have several questions that we definitely want to make sure we can respond to. And so I'm going to throw them out. And Shanna, I'm going to ask you to maybe just start with the first one, which is dealing with your grant cycles and what's the frequency of your grant cycles, as well as do you find that it's hard for students to maybe get it with just one grant cycle, or do you find that you need to have multiple ones for student engagement? And then after that, we'll open it up to see if someone else has other insight related to that question.
We've had success with one grant cycle. We've had students change their major, change their direction, their career path, their life path based on one course. That's not necessarily our goal. We think students, can do it, it doesn't have to be their career to be involved in philanthropy, but it's totally fine if it is. So we've had success with one round. However, we do find that students want more. And so we've tried to offer over the years different ways in which they can participate in more grant making. And to me, that's a Learning by Giving circle for our alumni, which I'm trying to get off the ground. COVID has made it a little bit slow, but we've done things like MOOCs where we've offered it to the general public, our courses. We've also done giving circles online last summer in the Boston area around COVID. So we'll probably do more giving circles because they do one cycle and we find that, yes, they do meet their course objectives. They do have this like internal change and inspiration to continue to be a philanthropist. However, they do want more. And so we're trying to work on giving them more.
All right, thank you. Lauren, I love to know, we have this question about, what are you hearing from young people? Like, what are they saying that maybe we're missing as adults? What are they passionate about?
Oh, this question's gonna fire me up. I hear time and time again that young people are saying no one is listening. And being in the middle, it's so bizarre because everyone on the decision-making side, the funding side, is saying, how do we tap into this insight? And all these people are saying, we're trying so hard to be heard and no one's listening. And so I think that young people just have so much to say about what they're seeing in their communities, and like there's not real, you have youth groups and youth councils and youth advisory boards, but as of now there's like not really a infrastructure to systematically connect youth insight with these decision makers, because you're not going to get these decision makers to walk into schools and sit on panels. That's the biggest thing I'm hearing.
So Joy, I want to have you kind of tackle the next question, which I almost think builds on Lauren's question. And so it's around what's the greatest thing you've learned from working with youth, um, especially as it relates to being an adult, because a lot of times we overthink things. And so what have been some of those things also that you've noticed that youth really bring to the table, and that we as adults often probably do not?
I think keeping it simple, basically what Lauren said, when they speak, listen, but listen intently, right? And dig a little deeper, because sometimes it's hard for them to get it out. It's sometimes hard for us to get it out. So digging deeper, getting to those core values, which we talked about earlier. And then also what it's not necessarily the question that you asked, but what I would like to say is, one thing that I've learned that's been really, really great is collaboration. Community Investment Network has been really involved with the students, but we also know that there's a bigger network. With the We Give Summit, we've been able to work with Honeycomb. We've actually spoke at at MIT that was having a class for learning by giving. So we share the model of time, talent, and treasure. We share the values, but we also learn. We learn about what they want to hear. We have different communities, but we have a lot of things that are really in common. So, I think that learning is exposure. I think by exposing some of our youth to some of these programs, and also exposing some of their youth to our programs, we learn and we grow together. And I think that's very, very, very important. And I think that's what makes the world a better place. Everybody gets to really thrive in those situations.
Thank you, Joy. One of the questions we talked about earlier was related to partnerships, but we have one now related to like family giving circles, or also engaging parents. Love to see if any of the panelists have experience as it relates to family giving circles or making sure parents are engaged with what youth are doing.
I'm happy to jump in and here. So Honeycomb is doing work with families, and a couple of core things that we're working with the families is that the parents really need to listen to what the young people care about. Different generations may have overlapping passions and areas of interest, but they may have very different. And so it's about what is the commonality that the young people and the parents or the families can have. And those really are the values. I think, Marsha, you mentioned it very early on about like the values are what guide our work. And so if there are different areas of interest that the teens or kids want to fund versus the parents, where can they come together with a shared value about what it is that the family unit has that enables them to give, that is still aligned to what the family legacy is, what the family story is. And it doesn't matter then whether they give to a shelter for cats and dogs or they give it to a hospital. There's a shared value in caring for others and other people and things in the world. And so it's about how do they align those pieces, even though they may ultimately fund different pieces. And that also goes to some of the family foundations, setting up a structure that allows that flexibility. So not having rigid guidelines so that there's no parameters to move out of that as generations move on and expand into the family's philanthropy, having some flexibility about that, but keeping, that core value and that legacy alive, but allowing some flexibility about how you actually fund out.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Wayne. And so just a few reminders. I'd love for everyone to be mindful. Please complete the session survey form, and it has been placed in the chat. I want to ask the panelists, are you all aware of any youth philanthropy circles in Canada? That was a question we received a few minutes ago. Wayne, are you okay?
Yeah, so we work with a program in Toronto. It's based out of the Jewish Federation there. And I know that they were expanding a few other programs. We're also in conversation at the moment with a program potentially to be started in Vancouver. So there definitely are some programs out there, and happy to put you in touch, whoever asked the question about that. They can certainly reach us and we can put them in touch with what's happening in Canada.
Great, thank you so very much. So as we're preparing to wrap up, we received a question related to technology, and I think it's important because obviously in our virtual space, we need to understand how young people are able to leverage technology. So would someone like to just share, to jump in and maybe just share briefly about what platforms they are using to help with decision making and to help further engagement?
I know that our circles have used Grapevine. Grapevine has been a great resource for us. They have polling, they have interaction. You can actually give money and they will actually push it out to the grantees. So that has worked really well. And they are an interactive tool for giving circles. So it really fits our model. They know what our goals are, and they make it easy for the students to interact. Because it's summertime, so we have students at colleges that are now in their home destinations or working on internships and things of that nature. Want them to be able to be engaged. Have a couple of things out there that don't have anything to do with the actual giving circle. It has to be fun, as we talked about. We don't have to always be about work. So put a couple of polls out there. Let them be engaged on what's happening, what festivals or what they're looking forward to, what they're doing for the holidays, just to make sure that they stay connected to the circle.
All right, and before we do our final wrap up, Lauren, did you have other technologies or platforms that you wanted to mention that you're utilizing?
This is not very technologically advanced, but we created a new virtual program that was all based on Google Drive. We made like linkable agendas to like tools so that students could go through the philanthropic process. And actually, we don't have any adult facilitators at all in this room. So it's entirely youth-led, youth-driven, no adults. And our inaugural cohort raised $12,000 on their own.
Oh, wow. That's great. So 60-second wrap up that I'd like for each of you all to respond to, starting with Shannon. Shanna, I would love for you just to give just a 60-second, overview of how we can work together to get more people involved, to get more young people involved in philanthropy.
Yeah, I would just say authentically turning over resources to youth. If there's any hint that their decision is then going to be overturned or anything like that, or that it's being watched, or you really have to turn over not only the resources, but the space to students. So, even our faculty as facilitators have to learn how to kind of take a step back. Whereas in all of their other classes, they're driving the discussion, they're driving the lecturing, really taking that step back and pausing. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that youth will step up and fill those gaps, and that you don't, as an adult, you don't have to be monitoring everything. They will almost not monitor themselves, but I've seen in classes where students have been like, we haven't heard from X, or I'd love to hear so-and-so's perspective. And so I think it's just kind of like, even when COVID hit, we just asked the students, how do we make this experience successful? And we turned it over to them, like, you figure this out. And they did. And so I think it's just really like letting go of control, and just, you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Great, thank you. So Wayne, 60 seconds. How can we get youth more involved, please?
Yeah. So one of the things that I was interested in is I completely agree with Shanna, everything you said. And the other piece is that, get the community to know that this is something that young people can do. I was trying to scroll through quickly the poll to see the numbers. I did see at the very beginning, and I think it was like 30% of us on this call learned that we were philanthropists as young people. And that just shows that we're interested in how do we shape that for young people. So it's about letting people know. I didn't even know that this was a possibility when I was young. And so it's about get marketing out there, let people know, engage with the communities, work with organizations, showcase what's available, run a giving circle at the local club or the local community center, and get teens to be engaged in this. Give them the power to be able to make these decisions and let them know that this is an incredible opportunity for them to be engaged and to make change. So I really think it's about putting it out there, marketing it, and also partnering. You know, we do this so much better when we work with others. That's exactly what a giving circle is. It's about collectively working together. And so as an organization, other people on this call partner with people. Honeycomb has partnered with CIN, and we've worked with others on the call. And so definitely partner.
All right, Lauren, 60 seconds. How can we get more young people involved in philanthropy?
Something happened.
Okay, I think maybe we're having some technical issues, but Joy, can you take that question for us? How can we get young people more involved?
I would agree with what Lauren with what was said earlier, but I also would say trust-based philanthropy. We talk about it a lot, but you know, trusting our youth that they have the power, forgiving, because we didn't get it right. People don't get it right the first time. It's not a guaranteed thing. So letting them know that it's okay. It's okay to learn in this journey because we're all on a journey. And the point is that they get it, right? And they will get it as they go through the process. So they get to chart their own course. You let them have the authenticity of the experience by going through the actual experience. I think if we allow them to have the power, they will really show us things that we've never seen before.
Amen. Thank you so much, Joy. So as we prepare to wrap up, I do have some key points that I've noted, some things that we've kind of heard resonating throughout what everyone has shared. Hey, place the students in the driver's seat, make it real, like give them actual real dollars and money to give away, as well as making sure we're engaging them. That's key. And providing support to their support system, whether that's faculty, parents, whoever is involved in their community, and let them drive with the issues really impacting young people, as well as remembering this is a great way for us to continue to create the next generation of philanthropists. So that means our field will be more diversified with thoughts, as well as backgrounds, as well as perspectives, which really means we're enhancing our communities. I want to thank and commend each of you all for being a part of today's panel. I don't think that we could have picked a more esteemed panel as it relates to having Wayne, Lauren, Joy, and Shanna with us. So thank you all so very much. We appreciate you, and we hope that you will join us for the next session, which is Gen Z, Generation Impact, how Millennials and Gen Z are changing philanthropy, taking place in 9 minutes. Thank you.